Yes. I think we have 6 now. Perfect. Yes. um, I'm gonna s- I'm gonna start with the land acknowledgement. Okay. Perfect. The Halifax. Okay. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kma'ki people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we're all treaty people. Um, can I get everyone to introduce themselves, say their name and what communities they're from? Just the members, sorry. Just just the members. I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maps Chidzonga. I am representing the African diaspora community.
Hello, I'm Renee Babin. I'm representing Lucasville.
Good evening, folks. Daryl Johnson, representing Cole Harbor, Dartmouth.
Hi, my name is Chioma. I'm representing Dartmouth.
Councilor Lindell Smith, representing District 8, Halifax, Peninsula North.
Missy Searle, representing Upper Hammonds Plains, Halifax, and Cherrybrook.
Perfect. So now I'm going to invite NTU staff to recite the affirmation.
We acknowledge that African teaching, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our community. If we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of our many ancestors.
And then we're going to move on to the approval of minutes. Do members have any errors or omission in the minutes of February 8, 2024? Moved by and then seconded by. Do we have a mover?
Yeah, I'll move.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you. So Renee and sorry, I can't catch your name there. Move. Map four. Map four. Sorry.
Mafumo.
Oh, Mafumo.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. I can hear you there. All those in favor say yay, and then all those opposed say nay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Motion has been carried. Then 3, approval of the order of business, approval of the additions and deletions. Dorothy, do you have any additions or deletions in the agenda?
No, no deletions or additions have been received by the clerk's office.
Perfect. Do members have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. And then, perfect. Councilor Lendell will move it. And then can I get a seconder? Perfect. Sorry. Lillian, sorry. Lillian will second it. All in favor say yay and all opposed say nay.
Yay.
Perfect. Motion has been carried. 4, business arising out of the minutes. There are no business arising out of the minutes. 5, call for declaration of conflict of interest. Do any committee members want to declare conflict of interest as a result of the agenda items? Okay, there's no conflict of interest. Perfect. So then the next agenda item is consideration for deferred business, work plan discussion. I will invite Renee to lead the committee in the work plan discussion.
Wonderful, thank you. I do have a PowerPoint presentation for you all. It's really to guide us in our next steps. I do wish that we had more of our committee members here to do it with us, but I think that this will be good. Exactly. So the African Descent Advisory Committee work plan. I know that we had discussed it previously. What we might want to, thank you, Dorothy, what we might want to focus on here. We've asked for a lot of presentations, and I think that that's really useful and is going to guide our work. But I wanted to set the stage for what perhaps we should be considering when we do formulate these recommendations. What button do I press? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just playing with it now. Well, it is what it is. So our overview, we will be setting an intention here to really center ourselves in what it means to be African Nova Scotian and how our being relates to the communities around us. We are obviously aware of the historical implications, but I want us to bring it back to ourselves. We can only do so much within this structure. And while we are all grateful to be here, I want it to be something that we feel very connected to. So we will be starting with setting our own values, discussing that, doing a mission review, what our purpose is here, a visioning exercise, and then plan creation. Our value session. So the first question, I know that we all have pen and paper. I think it would be nice to write things down first and then come to a shorter discussion together. So the first question is, what was your motivation for being on the committee? I think that we had touched on this in our first introductory meeting last June, but I think it's always nice to revisit why we're here and how we think we can help. So I'll give you about 2 minutes, maybe less, to jot down some thoughts. Yeah.
So thanks. Really, really quickly. So because I wasn't here when the work plan discussion started, and I know it got deferred. So it's the hope that today we will kind of go through like a work plan creation session as members, and then the information that is captured will that be presented kind of like a report or recommend? How do you envision the information captured today being implemented?
Yeah, certainly. So I would say the first 3 out of 4 things that we're tackling here are to recenter ourselves into our purpose and our mission. And then at the end, we'll be putting those visions into the plan.
Gotcha.
The plan will be captured. I'm going to pass around some more paper for you, and then I will put that into document, which will all be shared with everyone. I think that it makes sense for it to be flexible and
Right.
ever changing, but that is the purpose of this now.
Okay. So we did something very similar with the police commission, and I don't think anyone, no. So we did something very similar with the police commission, but what we did it kind of as like, and we can continue the way here. We did it as kind of like a very informal meeting. Like we had food, we sat down and we did exactly what we're doing now, but without the formalities. And there was only, I think, 1 or 2 members of staff. So really we could just, as board meetings, as board members, committee members or police commission members, do that. So I'm happy to do this now, but I know we got presentations and stuff too. And I don't know, I think of the model that we use at the police commission where we did it very informally. We had dinner together, we sat down, had these discussions, worked well. And then when we came back as a committee, the report was presented to us, and then we could discuss what we want to keep in there and whatnot. Anyway, so, that's just my suggestion. I wasn't here. Maybe you as a board decided to do it this way, which is okay, and I'm happy to participate. But yeah, just because there's some I think some really important questions that you're being asked, and I just don't want people to feel like they have to rush their answers and whatnot, which is tough because we also have other people here for presentations. That's my only feedback piece, but at the same time, happy to keep doing this.
You know what? That is a really great consideration. Thank you, Councillor Smith. That being said, I'm okay with deferring this to an informal meeting if everyone else is as well, because I think it does deserve a little bit more time and more space to think and actually discuss these things. And considering that other people are here for presentations, it might be valuable to do that instead.
Do we want to have a vote on this, or are we just going to defer it? I feel like maybe we should have a vote, or is everyone okay with just deferring it?
Sorry, Chair, you're going to need a motion to defer it to a further meeting.
Okay.
And then probably if the committee wants to organize like an informal meeting to discuss the work plan that's separate from
Okay.
the
All right.
meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Can I get a motion to, can I get someone to move deferring it, and then can I get a seconder?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
A second. Okay. Renee and Daryl moved and seconded. All those, oh, sorry.
I was going to ask if maybe this exercise here, the value session, if that could be homework.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. If that's something you want to do, for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a lot of thinking, like what values do, African Nova Scotians from our communities hold? Like that's a lot of homework. And if we're going to do it justice, maybe, putting in that little bit of work and maybe even talking to people in our community, coming back with, what does that feel like for you?
No, I think that is really important as well. I mean, everybody has the slides, so you can do as much homework as you want. My hope from this was to gain perspective on what we want to actually bring to our communities, being focused with 2 or 3 priorities that we then over the spring, summer, and fall bring back and actually discuss. So you can start the consultation process now if you want, for sure, informally. And then we can meet as a board informally, and then we'll start with that work formally. Thank you.
Thanks. So my suggestion, and Dorothy, I don't know if you have the motion, but my suggestion would be if we could give ourselves a timeline. So have the session before our April meeting, so that when we come to our April meeting, we could have the report or whatever we're calling it ready to agree on and have discussion on, and so that give us a couple weeks to organize. And I'm happy to help with the clerk's office and the chair and Renee, whoever else, to coordinate the session and support that. But yeah, I asked that we can maybe ask in the motion for that to be held before our April. I'm not sure the date. I think it's 11th.
11th.
Yeah, before our April 11th meeting.
Just to clarify, you want it to be done before the meeting?
So the motion to read for us to defer this for a planning session before the April 11th meeting. So I don't know if we need to put that in the motion, but maybe hold a special meeting before the 11th so we can have that session. And then when we're at our April 11th meeting, then we can actually have the work plan presented and vote on it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know if we need to put that in motion or not, but my ask would be us have a special meeting between now and April 11th. So then we have our formal meeting, we have the report to vote on, if that's okay with members. Okay.
So basically, I just want to understand. Basically, we're asking for an informal meeting before the April 11th meeting.
Chair, I just want to clarify, the committee is not able to have informal meetings. Anything that the committee does must be done in a public forum and transparent to the public. So you can certainly call a special meeting and have a planning session devoted entirely to the work plan,
Okay.
but it would be done in a public setting such as this.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and still we're gonna do the whole deferral process again, and then we will plan how we're gonna work with the meetings and making it public. Okay, does that work? Perfect. So once again, all those in favor, sorry, I need a mover to defer the meeting, and then I also need a seconder.
I'll move it.
Perfect. Thank you, Renee. Can I get a seconder?
Sure.
Thank you, Daryl. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say yay. Okay, perfect. Motion carried. And all those not in favor say nay. You can say nay. Okay, motion carried. Perfect. So now we're going to move on to correspondence, petitions, delegations. And Dorothy, do you have any correspondence received by the clerk's office?
No correspondence has been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you. Petitions. Dorothy, do you have any petitions received by the clerk's office?
No petitions have been received by the clerk's office.
Okay. Do members have any petitions? Okay. Now we're going to move to the Nova Scotian Road to Economic Prosperity. Can I invite Carolyn White, Halifax Partnership, and Junaid Jarvis, Halifax Partnership, to provide a presentation?
Good evening. Can you hear me? Tess. You can't hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Ann Wright. I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Capacity Building for the Halifax Partnership. I'm also the Executive Director of the Road to Economic Prosperity. Tonight, we've been asked to do a brief overview of the work of the Road to Economic Prosperity. And this is really a brief overview. Our presentation usually is an hour and a half when we go to communities and throughout the province to do this work. So thank you for the opportunity to present. And tonight with me, we have 5 staff people. Janae's not here, so playing Janae for the evening would be Mr. Trayvon Clayton, who is her community engagement specialist, and he's just hired this year, so he's brand spanking new. So we've thrown him in to this work, and he's responded nicely and effectively, so we're doing well. Also missing from the team is Dina Williams, who is our event planner and coordinator, and Janae's home ill. So we will do our best to represent our team. So do I get to do this myself? Or is there a clicker here? I thought there was. Thank you. So I am going to ask Trey to come at one point and just talk a bit about what he does. And if there's questions as we move through this, please feel free to ask. I don't usually just run through this and ask people to ask questions later, because sometimes you may forget what you want to ask. And here's an opportunity to ask while it's fresh. So who are we, what we do, what our goals and objectives are. So we've kind of condensed all the work. So REP is a 5-year initiative that was developed, took about, probably about 8 years to develop, but we're in our 3rd year of a 5-year plan. And we've taken a collective approach to this, and our work is community-led, and we'll get to our councils, later. We have 3 councils that guide this work, and it started with consultations with all communities. So we have a youth council, elder council, and an advisory council that look at this 5-year plan and decide what should happen from year to year. We now have a provincial focus. The province has, contributed financially and actually with some resource money for staff. And so we have a provincial reach as well, because as we know, as African Nova Scotian communities, we're not Halifax centered. I know it looks that way sometimes, but we were very intentional that it not be that. We do recognize our work started and was supported by HRM municipalities, so the work reflects that as well. So bringing critical community issues to the table, to the attention of key players in change, and our role is to preserve, protect, and revitalize. Our approach to community is through facilitation, bringing folks together, particularly as communities. We historically work with Black organizations, and we realize that minimizes the input in terms of the work. So we started with communities themselves, our broader communities, because we're all not part of Black organizations. And planning and making sure that communities had an opportunity to develop community plans. Planning grounds the work and helps bring vision to fruition. And we assist in support. So the other piece that's critical to this is that we don't go into communities unless we're asked. If a group feels that they're ready for the work, we present the work as I mentioned, after we do our presentations. And if communities feel that they're ready for this work, then we engage. And it's not always a community plan. Sometimes it's brainstorming because community's not ready. Sometimes it's mediation and facilitation because of sometimes the inner workings of community, and sometimes group dynamics do not allow for a community plan. The key is to make sure that everybody is on the same page and that plan will be bulletproof, using that expression, but making sure the plan is sound, making sure the community is engaged, and making sure everybody that's supposed to be part of the plan is there. So our role is to assist and support. Excuse me. So we're a tool for communication, congregating, and conversation. Those are the huge pieces of this work. And what we found in terms of some of the facilitation pieces in this is that communities sometimes just need to have a hard conversation to get to where they need to get. And we've had some success, and we'll talk about that in part 2 of this presentation. In the events help us get to where we're going. If Dina was here, she'd be presenting the slide. So we organize small, medium, and large-scale events centered around the REP work and its progression. We have a yearly summit, which we do a report back. We promised community when we were doing the consulting that we would make sure that the work wouldn't go internally. We would make sure that we'd have a summit where they would still have input, and we would report on the work that was being done. The ANS-led events turn the focus to fulfillment of our 3 pillars. and we usually present this up front. But our 3 pillars are about capacity building, land and infrastructure, and what we call the 3 E's: education, employment, and entrepreneurship. As I mentioned, we're governed by 3 councils, and we look at our connector program, which is tied to the projects as well, and our community engagement piece. So I'll stop here for a minute and have Trey come and talk about community engagement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trayvon Clayton. I am the community engagement specialist for REP. Long word short, I just call it the community middleman. That's kind of it. So we focus on unity, land, and education. Well, there's the 3 E's: education, employment, and unemployment. Efforts to partner with community, businesses, and organizations. REP can unlock new opportunities for the African Nova Scotian economic development. We focus on challenges we face in areas such as housing, income, wages, education, poverty, employment, unemployment, and so much more. And for community engagement, community does all the talking. Me as a person I just get input from community, bring it back for REP, and we share. And so I'm new, just starting, looking to get things up and going this summer with us. But if there's any questions, I do have my business cards and everything as well here with me. I would love to share and love to communicate with everyone else. And she's probably going to pull me back up here again. So.
Thanks, Trey. So, as I said, we're running through, this is condensed version, so there's a lot of stuff that we're not talking about, but we want to give you a sense of what this is about. So one of the features of the REP work is our index, and we're launching to the community our index on April 12th. So you're gonna see probably tomorrow invite for all community groups to be part of that index. And what we were able to do with that, comparatively speaking, the Halifax Partnership, as you well know, has an index that it presents every year. So we talked for years about how we could pull the stats for the African Nova Scotian community out of that and make it really specific, so the community has a snapshot of what is going on in the community in what I call the usual suspects in terms of employment, income, housing, and those types of things. So we have, we launch it at Summit. We talk about it at Summit, but people felt the community really needed to know what the information is and know the information and what we do about that information. So often we get stats and, we say, oh, isn't this too bad or isn't this great? But what do we need to know about that and what do we need to do? So the index will provide that. And I have, I think, a sheet going around that will give you some information of what we call knowing the numbers and what that means. And just to give you a highlight of some of the things that we were able to uncover with the index, we're about wage disparities. What we think we know and what actually are 2 different things. We suspect that their wage disparities are high, and they are. But the index actually shows those numbers. So what does that mean, and what are the activities that we need around those to address them? Keeping the community at the center of the work is really important. Historically, we know that a lot of really integral and important things have happened that community have brought forward. Oftentimes, they go into either government or to an entity, and the community has very little input on what that work is like. So keeping community at the center and always having input in is really important. So those are the things that we keep ahead of this work. So this picture is at our last summit, excuse me, and Thierry Dixon was the person that did a lot of the 3rd pillar work. We're about to hire somebody new. Thierry has retired, but I hope to have him back around to help, influence some of the work that's going to be happening. So we're going to jump from this to a really specific piece of work that we've done. And we use the community of Beachville, not because I'm from there, just because it was the first community that began to get, they got involved in the work through some of the development that was happening. And as we know, all of our communities are impacted by development. And it was to be able to, for the community to have some autonomy and some authority around what's happening in their community. Upper Hammonds Plains and Lucasville are all also in the queue in terms of beginning to do their work. Upper Hammonds Plains has a community plan, and Lucasville has just finished theirs. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and how the planning department is involved and what we've been able to do. And I just want to recognize Maps. He was involved in the Beachville work as well and did some really incredible work with us. That, you know, the community was sad to see him go, but I think you're allowed back. I'll have to check. So we're going to talk about the Beachville work, which came out of looking at Armco development and the Lovett Lake development. And the community began to be very nervous about what that would mean. The loss of land is very evident in Beachville, as it is in all communities. And what would that mean? So we began the process with the community, you know, as small as Beachville is in terms of numbers, there were a couple of community groups there. So we had to make sure that people were on the same page and moving forward in order to do what we needed to do. For folks that don't know, I'm a descendant of the Black refugees, and Beachville is a Black refugee community from the War of 1812. And from the times of its establishment, Beachville was about, you know, I always forget the hectares of land that they say, but Beachville went from the Armdale Rotary to 10 Talent. And so we're in the position that Beachville, particularly up to several years ago, was about a mile long. So the erosion of that community began to have its effect on the community in general in terms of being able to, you know, reimagine what the community would look like, how we would build from the ground, what was the vision. So a community plan was really evident. It was necessary. And so the community did that work, recognizing the precarious position that the community would be in. So that required making changes to HRM policy, obtaining land, boundaries and zoning and changes, and providing a better future for community. So the first thing that happened was facilitation, making sure the community was together, which we did, and having a facilitator come out and begin to talk about the visioning process. The community then made some decisions about where it wanted to go and began to look at their relationship with planning. And I thought a couple of planning, they were invited, a couple of planners to be out here today because their work was really critical to where we ended up. So I'm always honest and
Sorry, excuse me, you
Sorry.
left for 30 seconds.
Pardon?
30 seconds
30
left.
seconds.
Yeah.
So our relationship with planners was, sorry. So our relationship with the planners began a little precariously, and I'm always honest about that because it shows that you can build relationships with community and get some really good work done. So in 30 seconds, I'm not going to be able to really talk about that, but at the end of the day, I'll just go through.
Yes, that's what I'm about to
Okay.
do. You can go ahead.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Oops, what did I do? Okay, there we go. Yeah. So our conversations with planners, as I said, was precarious in the beginning because at that time, planners were telling us what the policy was. You know, here's the policy, here's what we can do. And the community at that time was not ready to hear it, looking at the, you know, the threat on the property, the threat on community, and really told the planners how how community works. The fact that policy didn't mean anything because all that was doing is giving them the authority to take land and do what they wanted to do. So that's the short version of that. And so planners came back, they stayed at the table, involved maps and began to do some groundwork to talk about the win-win. How do we work with policy to make sure community is engaged and part of that process and actually is leading that process. So we were able to do that and got a great group of planners that are still working with us today. And the community called a table with the developer, HRM, and the province as well to say, here's our community plan. So it started with the community having a plan that everybody agreed to and invited people to the table as we move forward. So that was very positive, and it led, sorry, whoops. I'm missing a map. Oh, okay. So, yeah, there's a map missing. Sorry. So Beachville, if I had the map, you could see there's a layover there, and I don't know if you can make that out. So Beachville is 6 times the size that it was in 2019, I believe now, with the boundaries being changed. And if you drive out St. Marcus Bay Road, you can see, the entrance to Beachville now, and it's we're at Albert Walker Drive, and goes all the way. It goes all the way out to Monroe subdivision and a little beyond there. So Beachville has expanded into Bayers Lake and down towards Prospect. So the community is 6 times larger, and for that community, to the community, it's a big deal to have the boundaries extended and then protected with zoning, with CDD zoning, and also zoning that does not allow more industrial development, industrial zoning. Those are some of the things that have changed. The obtaining land. So the other part for Beachville is there's parcel which were in Beachville that either went for land tax or expropriated, et cetera. So there's 8 pieces that are being transferred back to the community, as well as the boundaries being extended. So Beachville looks really different. And through a staff report, all those things were done. So the importance of staff reports, boundary changes, and zoning means a lot to the communities. What Beachville was attempting to do as well was making sure that the precedent was set for all communities, not just Beachville. So not just saying, okay, here's what Beachville did, but here's what can happen in every community. And it has provided a lot of communities a wake-up call on that you can have agency in your own community around what that looks like, what the visioning looks like, and that's really important to the process in the future. So again, we do this through facilitation and bringing communities together. The only way that you can have a solid community plan is a community says, here's what our priorities are, and bringing planners and other entities within HRM around the table are critical to that. And that's been proven in this process. And as we are invited provincially to the regions, and we have different municipalities, we can use the HRM process as well to inform and set some precedents and show communities how this can work. And actually, I'm going to end that right there anyway. Yeah, we made it so short, I forgot pieces, but so that's our presentation. So if there's any questions or anything, I hope that this will be the time that you ask.
Can I ask a question? Okay, this has to do with the land. So it's 6 times smaller. Is anyone working on this? And you said 8 pieces were transferred back to the
It was
community?
6 times larger than it was originally.
Yes.
Beachville is, yeah, larger, not smaller.
Oh, it's larger?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
We've gained land. So-
Good. Go for it.
Yeah. And yes, there's pieces being transferred back. And some of the policy changes are that now, and I wish the planners were here because they always co-sign on this as well. When there's surplus land available, there's a whole process within HRM, but now because Beachville has its own zoning and its CDD and it's protected, they have first right of refusal for any surplus land, or, you know, community can go find a land and say this belongs to HRM. Is there surplus? We want to do A, B, and C. So Beachville is actually in this implementation planning stages, where, you know, it's going to look like, you know, are we going to do affordable housing? Is it community gardens? Is there going to be, you know, strip business malls? That's where Beachville is now in terms of the process. So it's done all its
So
labor.
you said,
Yes.
good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. You gotta get back up there. I got two questions for you. No worries. So thanks for being here. And you know, as council, I kind of get a lot of updates from you at council and also through just the updates you do on email. So thank you. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments more recently. And I looked on the website, and you actually only go up to 2022. So there's a task for Trey and anyone else to do some updates, because I know you've done some work since 2022.
Yes.
So wondering if you can talk a little bit
Yeah.
about some of the more recent accomplishments, and also priority 2 specifically related to attracting investment, and just wondering what some of the opportunities you've done around just trying to get businesses to either attract businesses to come here related to African Nova Scotia community, or support businesses, because I know that's some work you've been doing as well.
Right. What was your first question? I think it's late in my brain.
So the first question is
Yeah.
just recent accomplishment, because on your website it only goes up to 2022.
Yes. So our 2023 report is about to come out as well. And so some of that has been some internal work between HRM and REP and Halifax Partnership. And so we also have our roundtable with the mayor, the CAO, and the director of planning. Includes, and I can't remember who else is around the table, but all the senior staff in terms of HRM. And that's a really important table, includes diversity and inclusion as well. Tracy comes to that as well. And so we have folks around the table. So, and community comes, well, the council comes. As I said, we have about 20 to 30 people on the, that makes up those 3 councils. And that's a really important table. The last time we held that table, we said, asked the mayor to include in his budget, and the CAO at the time, money for extra planners that would work specifically with African Nova Scotian communities. And we got those 3 planners this year. So that's an exciting addition to the work. So we're really excited about that, because we know that some of the planners, as hard as they work, we're doing some of this off the side their desk to be able to accommodate the work that we were doing. So we have 3 planners this year, and I think we pushed it, for, Kate Green is supportive well, and I think we pushed it again. I don't know we're approved yet to get more planners, because we know this will take more work. The other interesting piece, the work on planning, the whole real objective is to make sure that this work is embedded in a process, so that the communities are not coming back every year with the same thing. That East Preston don't have to have a separate process. You don't have to go to, if it's embedded in the process, we know what that is, and communities can just engage. So we have, I wish Devin was here too, because he was also, and Tamar is involved as part of ANSIO, in terms of ANSCAP, which is a process within a process that allows communities to engage in this process. So once they have a community plan, what happens is you have a community plan that goes to a staff report. And for those that understand staff reports, that's what goes to council. And when those things are approved by council, that's what, council approves it, and that's what staff follow. So those are really important tools in this work. Some of the other pieces are around Upper Hammonds Plains being engaged as well. They've done a lot of work, and they've done their own stuff around community benefits agreements and community land trust. Community benefits agreements is another piece that we're waiting for the province to okay, and I think we have to give them a little nudge, because the HRM Council has already approved community benefits agreements. And that's that's a really exciting tool for HRM to have, because it gives, right now, um, the only legal entities on a development agreement are the city and the developer. But with the community benefits agreements, it allows the communities to have that legal standing as well, to be able to say, okay, we're doing this project, but we also need to make sure that there's jobs, green space, et cetera. Those things community get to identify. So those are some of the other pieces that we've been able to move forward. I don't know if I answered both of your questions, but I think I did.
And the second one was just related to the priority related to supporting businesses
Yes.
and attracting investment.
Yes. So the supporting businesses and attracting investment, and also the trades are in that third pillar as well. So we've been able to, we got a call from the iron workers of Montreal who wanted to come in, and they're still coming to do some work with us in terms of attracting young people in that particular trade, which pays very well and is another opportunity. Attracting investment as well. As I said, since we lost Terry, that's lagged a little, but we'll have somebody hired next month to begin going back to that pillar and doing that work as well. Attracting investment is really about our international work, right? So as Black communities, we really haven't created or identified what our economy looks like to invest in. What are we investing in? We noticed that HRM has relationships with Asian and European countries. So for us, it's the Caribbean and African countries that we want to be engaged in to create that investment portfolio. So that piece is being drafting a mandate, and working group is being established for that this year in our third year. Thanks. I'll just stay for a minute.
Thank you. So I'm going to continue. Information items brought forward. There are no information items. And then number 9 is reports and discussion. 9.1 is African Heritage Month, Lunch and Learn, and the Anti-Black Racism Speaker Series. Can I invite Tamar Brown, African Nova Scotian Advisor, to provide a monthly update? Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. So February is a very busy month, as you all know. During February, we provided ongoing educational opportunities for HRM employees, such as African Heritage Month Lunch and Learns, as well as an Anti-Black Racism Speaker Series, and they were all provided virtually. So our smiles, our joy, our resilience as African Nova Scotians. Craig Marshall Smith came in and presented on the perseverance that people of African descent have demonstrated over the centuries in our province. And it is said that our smiles tell a story, they can share joy, and they can share resilience. In African Heritage Month, we celebrated our heritage and culture and incredible spirit to be resilient by outlining people of African descent from our region and their successes. The reality is we have had some amazing individuals who've accomplished great things, Craig says, while dealing with an existing society that doesn't always appreciate their achievements. So he came and spoke on that and presented for an hour, and it was a well-attended session. The second session we had was Achievement and Resilience of Entrepreneurs of African Descent in collaboration with Immigration Services Association of Nova Scotia and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, ANSIO. Employees were invited to register for this virtual launch in honor of African Heritage Month. And ISAN team members came and featured entrepreneurs of African descent who have successfully established their businesses here in Halifax region, and they talked about their successes with that as well. ISAN's also provided an overview of their business development services programs and projects and comprehensive business development models supporting immigrant entrepreneurs at every stage of their business journey. ISAN shone a bright light on the incredible achievement and resilience of several African descent business clients and employees were inspired by their hard work, dedication, and determination. And the third series we had in African Heritage Month was The Joy and Resilience. Dr. Reverend Leonard Anderson came and shared insights and lived experiences for the anti-Black racism session. Sorry, this is... Our fourth session was Striving for Freedom, Black Nova Scotian Struggles for Self-Determination with Dr. Isaac Saney. The African Nova Scotian is an integral component of the region's history. A defining feature of this experience is the active and conscious historical agency of Black Nova Scotians in the struggle to assert their democratic rights and achieve self-determination. The session was well attended, and it's also available on our HRM hub for an indefinite period of time for all employees to take part that couldn't attend that day. We also had in-person events such as the ANSIO Open House. It was our second annual open house event, which was at City Hall for an internal event, HRM employees. It was intended by approximately 100 employees that day. And this year we added something a little different. It was ANSIO pop-up events. So there's some folks in HRM that don't work, typical hours and typical jobs. So we popped up at their locations when requested by the business units to be on site for them to make it a little more accessible. And we offered this year a session, Growing Up Black in Nova Scotia. It's a session with Percy Paris. He comes in and talked about his lived experiences. If business unit requested those sessions, we're actually still running those sessions, and they're going until the end of April as well. They've been very popular. So also during February, we started planning for the International Day of Elimination of Racial Discrimination Day, where we have a speaker coming in, Dr. Sylvia Hamilton. She'll be coming in on April 2nd to do a talk around IDIRD. And anti-Black racism training has been approved and is now offered to our business units. And there is no updates for our ANSIO outreach coordinator at this time, with the exception that she is starting community circles and employment circles again now that the weather is better and communities are starting to call and plan for those. Thank you.
I think you had a question.
Oh.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm wondering if the committee will indulge me, if we can go backwards to our last item for World Economic Prosperity, if that's okay with folks. So I'm wondering, and Caroline, if you want to pop up too, I'm wondering if it'd be beneficial for you at all if this committee wrote a letter to the province or whatever the official way for us supporting them to move forward on the community benefits piece.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just wondering if the committee would be okay with me putting forward motion for the chair of the committee to write. And I don't know, anyway, the motion, the basis it would be for us to write a letter in support of community benefits agreements becoming law or legislation.
Part of the
And
charter.
yeah, part of the charter, and we could work with you on what's
Continue what we. Thank you.
So just to clarify the direction, so the committee can't write letters to the province. However, if you want to make a recommendation to executive to write the letter, but working with you and with the chair of African descent as well as staff to assist in writing a letter to the province, that is the acceptable approach.
Could I make a comment on that? The word "can't" gets my attention. Why?
Our advisory committee committees are limited when it comes to writing letters. You certainly can write a letter
According to whom?
to your terms of reference in your bylaws. You are an advisory committee to the executive standing committee.
Madam Chair, if I could ask a question of the clerk's office. To elevate it, so Women's Advisory Committee has put forward a request to the executive committee to request the mayor send a letter. Can that same process? So, and the mayor has actually done it. There was some things that came out through Women's Advisory Committee that they wanted the mayor to elevate to the province. So you can do your motion, request the executive committee, request the mayor send, and 99% of the time the mayor does it.
And as part of, if that direction is given, the mayor's office can, again, reach out to you as chair of the African Descent and work with you on what the intent of the committee was looking for.
Madam Chair, also, we know that the mayor's already sent a letter, but this letter would be sent by the mayor on behalf of this advisory committee. So that way, thank you.
So do we need to do a motion on it, correct? Can I get a mover?
Sorry, before we do that, I have a question. When we say the province, is there a particular body, agency, office who the letter would be directed to? Because I'm just wondering where the bottleneck is happening potentially, and if we need to go direct.
To Minister of, oh my goodness, Municipal Affairs.
So just so that the members are clear or have a clear understanding, it would be, what you're asking for is that you're making a recommendation to the Executive Standing Committee to request the mayor write a letter on your behalf. And at this time, you can outline if there's any details you'd like in that specific letter. And then we would take that information to Executive Standing Committee. And if passed, we can certainly make those arrangements that the mayor's office work with Chioma.
If I may, Madam Chair. Once again, I could be mistaken, as usual, but I thought this committee was set up to advise the HRM how their policies affect us, me. So the chairperson represents me and the community in that issue. So I see the motion perfect, that we write a letter as a counselor who's part of the HRM. He's actually governor. He governs what we do. To say he can't write a letter causes me confusion. So if you don't mind, could you explain it again why we can't, our chairperson, can't write a letter showing support for the wonderful work that's being done in our community?
Absolutely. So as a body of council, you provide advice to the Executive Standing Committee where you are looking to write a letter to the province, an outside body of HRM. It would need the direction of your parent body, your advising body, which would be the Executive Standing Committee, in order to do that. If you wanted to write a letter to regional council, if you wanted to write a letter to the executive stand, you wouldn't need to write a letter to the Executive Standing Committee. But the other part is there's nothing stopping you as individual residents from writing letters as well. You as an advisory body, though, are limited when it comes to what your capabilities are under your terms of reference as that advisory group.
Once again, I intended to be quiet as I could tonight. Okay, in your opinion, we're limited. I could be sitting home right now. I'm not limited. We're not limited. We have a job to do, which is to advise the HRM. So if you, one individual, says we're limited, I don't hear it. I don't believe we're limited. I believe we have a job to do, which is to inform, advise, tell, talk to, as a committee, what the impact of their policy, that their policy has on people who look like me. Now, someone who doesn't look like me has no business telling me nothing.
I was just going to say, I think it's because it's outside the HRM that I think she's trying to say that because the letter that we're writing is gonna go outside the HRM, that's why there's a little bit of a hiccup there. I think that's what she's trying to say.
I would like to clarify, there's limitations to what the committee as a whole can do. And it's governing guided by your terms of reference. Again, advisory committee to the executive standing committee because you are a body of regional council. If you're looking to do something that's outside of your terms of reference, we're here to help you try and find that way that you can still do it within your terms of reference. And by doing so would be to ask the executive standing committee to ask the mayor to write a letter on your behalf. We're not saying it can't be done. We're just saying this is the mechanism in which it would have to be done because of the nature of advisory committees, not you as the group.
Can I get a mover for that motion and then a seconder? Okay, sorry. Can I get the clerks to read what you guys have before I do the mover and seconder?
Yeah, sure. I was just actually going to ask Councillor Smith to repeat what he wants us to include in the motion.
So the ask is that the African Descent Advisory Committee requests that the mayor or executive standing committee, which one would come first? Okay, that the executive standing committee request the mayor to write a letter on behalf of the committee in support of charter changes for community benefits agreements. And this letter be written to the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
So right now we have that the African Descent Advisory Committee directs the Executive Standing Committee to direct the mayor to write a letter on behalf of ADAC to the Minister of Municipal Affairs in support of charter changes.
To move forward community benefit agreements. Does that make sense? Yeah. Community benefit agreements.
That the African Descent Advisory Committee direct the Executive Standing Committee to direct the mayor to write a letter on behalf of ADAC to the Minister of Municipal Affairs in support of charter changes to move forward community benefit agreements.
I think specific, yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize my mic wasn't on. Benefit agreements in historic and recognized African Nova Scotian communities.
That the African Descent Advisory Committee direct the Executive Standing Committee to direct the mayor to write a letter on behalf of the African Descent Advisory Committee to the Minister of Municipal Affairs in support of charter changes to move forward community benefit agreements in historic and recognized African Nova Scotian communities.
Perfect. So now, okay, perfect. Perfect. So Councillor Landau and, sorry, Leanne. Seconded. All for this motion say yay. All opposed say nay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Motion moved. Carried, I mean. 9.2, community member updates, none. 10, added items, none.
Chair, I came late, so I wanted to ask something that was in the minutes. Am I allowed to do that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, in 9.2.1 in the minutes, it was a motion that I put across that the African Descent Advisory Committee, that we go ahead and get information on Africa, basically, from way back when it was Campbell Road. And so I was wondering what happened with that. Did anything happen with that? Am I allowed to ask that this late in the meeting? Because I know you went past it. I came late, so I'm sorry.
I believe that, hi, Jerry. Oh, you want to take it? Sorry.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the member, that motion was accepted by the Executive Standing Committee. So then the next step is that it goes and through a process of who's going to write it, becomes a council report, gets directed to us. So it was approved without any changes by the Executive Standing Committee. Pardon me?
So it's being worked on, basically?
Yeah, so it's going to be directed to us. So Executive Standing Committee was it was just last week.
Okay. Give me time. Thank you.
Okay. So the date of the next meeting is April 11th, 2024. And then, okay. So then it's adjournment. Can I get a mover to adjourn this meeting?
Once again, sorry, I'll ask a question. I'm late again, but I wanted to ask a question of Ms. Caroline, if that's is that too late? Am I done? Ready for adjourn? So it's all over? Yeah.
We haven't adjourned technically. Is it good? I think it's good. Right, let's just
Thank
do
you.
this.
Thank you very much. Sorry once again. The question was, I wanted to ask a question about economic growth, what it means in our community. Have you looked at things like human development, economic development, and I reading notes, the Human Development Index, how it relates to, like, when we say economic prosperity, are we saying, does the community know what if you know what I mean, what is it
I know exactly what-
compared to what?
I don't know if I'm on or not. So that is the purpose of the index. So the purpose of the index is to do, as I said, the usual suspects in terms of being able to determine where we are, but also the community needs to be able to attach value to that. What do communities want to measure? So our the first iteration of the index is an index like everybody else, how we're doing in these areas. But what it doesn't show, we have a wellness piece that was done by Engage Nova Scotia, which will be talked about as well. And they have some data as well. And what we're trying to do is have all that data on the 12th, so the community know who's measuring us and what they're measuring and what that means for us. The second iteration of the index will be a participatory survey done by community to say, here's the other areas that we need to examine. For example, how are our communities doing? Are we healthy? What do those things mean?
Yeah.
How are we doing as a community? Economic growth is still by European standards. So
Yes.
this will also help us identify what Black economics, what African economics would mean. And I do mean that seriously. And there's a book called Ingenomics by Caroline Keller, who goes through the whole piece around First Nation and Aboriginal communities and how that's different from, economics, which has not been really changed since the 1800s by, Adam Smith, who was one of our first, the first person to talk about economics and what those values are. So it's actually trying to shift that lens as well in that narrative.
Okay. Now, the standard of living, like self-respect and freedom of choice, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
has that when you first, I'm sorry to ask you this because this is like years ago when you started,
Yeah.
but
But all those things are considered, but
That's been-
before we get to that conversation, we have to figure out where we are
Okay.
in terms of the community.
All
So
right.
thank you for that
Yeah,
question. I
thank
like
you.
answering it.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so, sorry. Can I get a mover to adjourn the meeting? Okay, I was like, okay, guys, come on, let's. Perfect. So Daryl is gonna move it. Meeting adjourned.
What's up, afternoon?